Good morning and welcome to a live edition of Indiana Insiders. I'm joined this morning by those usual cast of suspects: Republican Jennifer Hollowell, Democrat Robin Winston, and Dr. Laura Wilson from the University of Indianapolis. So much to talk about, but let's start again with the fallout, obviously, of the latest developments of the Kavanaugh nomination for Supreme Court. So Brett Kavanaugh is confirmed, sworn in on the very same day, as demonstrators make their feelings known on the street. So I turn to you, Dr. Laura. Let's put a little bit of all this in perspective. What does all this mean?
Well, it's really crazy and unprecedented in a number of ways. Usually when you look at the judicial system, this has been one place that Americans have had a lot of confidence, and oftentimes these hearings have gone through rather quickly. Confirmations haven't been that political. We can point to 1991 and Clarence Thomas and Anita Hill. That's really unprecedented, though, and when you see all these demonstrations, it tells you this is very political. This isn't just about a judicial nomination. It's everything that comes after it, and it's really going to matter long term.
Yeah, we know Senator Todd Young voted for Kavanaugh, Senator Donnelly against. Here was what both had to say afterwards.
The nomination process for a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court is often a challenging one. That was true last year when President Trump nominated Justice Neil Gorsuch, who I voted for. That was also true this year with Judge Kavanaugh, when there was so much partisanship and anger in the process. I believe the process was unfair to everyone and unnecessarily divided the country. Now that the Senate has confirmed Judge Kavanaugh, I am very hopeful for his success and for him to join the other justices to make decisions based on the Constitution, our laws, and their collective wisdom. Our country needs that today more than ever.
Now, here's part of the statement that Senator Todd Young sent us. Quote, "The accusations leveled against Judge Kavanaugh were serious and needed to be investigated. Judge Kavanaugh and his accusers were each afforded the opportunity to tell their stories to the American people. Following that, the FBI investigated the claims as requested. During this scrutiny and 6 previous background investigations, none of the accusations were corroborated in any way." So let's turn, Robin, first of all to you. What do you make of that?
Well, I don't think you, Maynard Jackson was my hero, former mayor of Atlanta. And he always would tell me, you don't look back at the scoreboard, you move on to the next game. The next game is November 6th. People that don't think elections have consequences should think about what happened over the last week. Elections do have consequences. When we're talking about a 51-49 vote, that kind of division that's in our country, and a 5-4 Supreme Court with a lot of very, very big issues ahead of it.
Jennifer?
Well, I think that this is all a really big problem for Senator Donnelly. I think that video was humorous, but I mean, he has a couple of big issues coming out of this. Number one, a few weeks ago, you may have said that Democrats have the advantage in terms of enthusiasm, getting their voters motivated to go to the polls. This has changed all of that. Republicans are now incredibly energized. And the other big problem that Senator Donnelly has is that up until now, he's been trying to make this case that, you know, he really stands for Hoosiers, or that, you know, he sometimes votes with the president. The problem is, and this highlights it with a very fine point, when Republicans need that vote, when the president needs that vote, Joe Donnelly does not vote with us. He does not vote with the majority of Hoosiers who support Judge Kavanaugh. He voted for Obamacare, he voted against the tax cuts, and he voted against this nomination. And I think it is a really, really big issue for him, because he had been overpolling with some Republicans who thought, well, I like Joe Donnelly. I think he is okay. Maybe he's closer to us than we think. No, he has just underscored that he is not.
But let me jump in there. Wouldn't some argue that he may be standing with women? Is that a negative?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I happen to be a woman, and I don't think this was a man and woman issue. This is about an accusation which no one corroborated. There was no evidence. There was not a single person, not her best friend, everyone that she claimed was there, not a single person could support this. And so, I mean, we can't stop people just based on an accusation that has absolutely no supporting evidence.
Robin, you may need a little equal time here.
Oh, yeah. I'd appreciate that. The fact is that Joe Donnelly stands up for Indiana and stands up for the women of our state who are very, very concerned about this issue. The decision on the Supreme Court also reflects a commitment to representing issues of concern to Hoosiers. One of the biggest ones is health care, and it's going to come up probably before the Supreme Court. There's been efforts made time and time again by these guys to repeal the Affordable Care Act. I believe that ago there, and Joe Donnelly was concerned about that.
Now, Mike Braun has also issued a statement. Let's get to that. Voting against Judge Kavanaugh today is just the latest example of Senator Donnelly saying one thing to Hoosiers and then doing another in Washington. Instead of joining Hoosiers and supporting Kavanaugh, Senator Donnelly joined the Democrat media circus to smear and obstruct President Trump's nominee. I'm thrilled the Senate has confirmed Judge Kavanaugh and look forward to the great work he will do to protect our Constitution on the Supreme Court. That kind of echoes a little bit of what Jen was talking about. Dr. Laura, there's something else I'm interested in here. I know they said that the FBI investigation was going to go for about a week. And yet, I think by midweek, I heard from Mitch McConnell saying that they were going to go ahead and vote on Friday. So apparently, people knew something about this investigation long before it was over.
Sure, and they had, on Thursday, they had the one printed document, 45 pages, 9 interviews, and all the senators had the opportunity to look through that. I think it's very difficult. They did due diligence in terms of having the investigation. It'd be hard to say that it was necessarily thorough, but to Colin's point about not necessarily having the kind of corroboration she was looking for, same thing for Flake's point. You know, this was incredibly political, and even having something like an FBI investigation, which we would hope would be neutral and efficient, having only 1 week to get 45 pages, that's short for a bureaucratic report. I think it shows some of the shortcomings and just how partisan even something like that had become in this confirmation hearing.
Can you follow up, Jen?
Oh, if you look at, there was a recent survey that came out just a couple of days ago where Democrats and independents said that if there was no corroborating evidence, then Judge Kavanaugh should be confirmed. Significant numbers. That is what I'm talking about. That is a serious problem. So for Senator Donnelly to vote against President Trump's nominee, who a majority of Hoosiers support, when there is no supporting evidence against it, if you have any doubt in your mind, you should go online and read Senator Susan Collins' statement, and that very well explains why he was confirmed.
This segment, Robin.
You guys totally obliterate history. What about Merrick Garland? We put the guy up for the nomination. You wouldn't even meet with him. You wouldn't vote on him. You didn't take him up for consideration. And you talk about politics? You guys did that a year ago with Obama's nominee.
I'm talking about Senator Donnelly's
I'm talking about what happened that made this even become a reality.
When we come back, we'll talk about the specific race as far as the race for United States Senate in Indiana. Believe it or not, there's a big one here. We'll talk about that when we come back.